I was born and raised in Detroit. I love my city. I adore all the growth and the architecture and all the amazing things we've accomplished, whether it be Motown or the automotive industry. And as I've traveled the world and spent time and lived in different places, I find that there's no place like home. Detroit will always be home to me, and it'll always be a place that I love. I love this staple, which is amazing. And it really inspired me to do my podcast, which is called Detroit Girl Transform. I decided to do this podcast on Resilient Radio, which is a Black-owned station based in Detroit. And it really highlights the transformation of my city while I, as an individual, was transforming. And what kind of people come out of Detroit, which are really people with hustle and grit, who are determined and also exhibit perseverance. The podcast will really focus on different people that have different phases of transformation, whether it be their finances, their well-being, their travel experiences, how they transform their relationships, how they transform their spiritual beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's what's best for our city, and that's what's best for our legacy and our future and our family. Hey, welcome to another episode 2, season 3 of Detroit Girl Transform. I am your host and your favorite Detroit girlie, Tony Carter. Super excited about tonight. Tonight we're getting in the ring and we're talking about what it means to have resilience and also just the transformation of the boxing experience, and not just physically, but also mentally. So I'm super excited to have Chuck as our guest today. Chuck is one of the podcast members of the Boxing Heads podcast, and he is also a member of the Resilient Radio Stream family. In addition to that, he's also my frat brother. So he's a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, Root to the Good Bros. So super excited to have Chuck on here and chopping it up as we talk about how boxing embodies resilience, discipline, and passion. His podcast episode, I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it, but it's every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on the Resilient Radio Stream YouTube channel. So welcome, Chuck.
Thank you for having me. I feel special being on this show. This is a fire show right here.
Thank you. You are part of the DGT family. So Chuck also mentored me and getting into the podcast game. So he's still my mentor. I haven't dropped him yet, and he can't drop me. So nope. We still family. And I'm so excited to have you because one, I don't know if I told you, but I go to a boxing class in a boxing gym in DC, but it's got music and it's multiple bags. Mm-hmm. But I am fascinated with the fight life, and so I love to have some conversation with you today about breaking that down. So you ready for the smoke?
Yeah, I'm ready for the smoke for sure. Yeah.
So before we get into it, tell us a little bit about you, your podcast, a little bit about you personally, and kind of what got you into boxing.
Okay. So of course, if anybody, I know everybody here, Chuck, or they probably hear CJ from my podcast name, but my real name, as you can see, is Charles Young Jr. Born from the west side of Detroit. Let's start off with, I'm married. I have a beautiful daughter who's about to turn 4. One thing I can I can tell y'all this. When I'm not podcasting or talking about boxing, I'm an IT manager. So that's what I do. For my career, I'm an IT manager, and that's just a little bit about me. As far as the podcast, of course, it's called the Boxing Head Podcast. We go live Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here on the Resilient Radio Stream YouTube channel. We've been going for a while. It's been almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
Yeah, you're on like season 8, right?
Yeah, season 8. So our 80th episode is tomorrow. So it's been real fun. And before we start this interview, I do want to say this. I want to give a shout out to all the fighters, the trainers, through my journey with boxing, who gave me like so much knowledge. That's why I can be on the show and answer these questions, because I dug deep so much into boxing before I opened up a podcast. But we can talk more about that as you go along with the questions and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool family, right? I mean, a lot of people speak highly of their trainers, and
Hmm.
people that have just encouraged them in the journey. And I'm curious, what sparked you to get into the discipline of talking about and discussing the boxing world and really just digging into the grit and the hustle of that?
Well, well, grit, because you from the D too. It's nothing
Yeah,
but grit up here. So, one thing about boxing, it will pull that. It will show if you have grit or not. You know how they say, you can play basketball, you can play bowling, but you can't play boxing. You can't play boxing. You're gonna find out quick. You're gonna find
yeah.
out
You know
quick
when
if
you get
that's
that
something you.
work.
Yeah. You're gonna find out. So all in all, you need that. You need that grit if you're, thinking just with boxing period, you're gonna need that grit, but not from just a physical standpoint, but also from a mental. I know a lot of people, boxing, of course, is a physical sport, but it's a lot of mental that gets into it inside the ring and outside of the ring. So all that resounds in it. It has to. So the grit, like you was mentioning, all that, it has to be physically and mentally in order for
Yeah.
you to be tip top in that ring. Yeah.
And tell us a little about your podcast. So you have featured boxers on there and they just talk about the sport and the craft. Like what is that like?
Yeah. So our podcast, I got two other hosts who are the bros as well. Grit, the boxing enthusiast, and Ted. So we have different interviews. We have interviews of amateur fighters, of pro fighters, and of course of like different officials and stuff. So for the amateur fighters, what I try to do and what we wanted to do is give the amateur fighters a platform, because with boxing, you really don't hear too much of boxing. If you look on ESPN, they may show a clip of like a big fight, but other than that, you really don't really have no boxing. So it kind of started. I ain't gonna give you too much because I don't want to give you all the answers in one, all in
No,
one.
it's
But
all good. Because I'm fascinated with the sport.
yeah,
Boxing is
okay.
my thing. I don't want to get hit in the face though, so that's why I do the class where I
Oh
hit the
no,
face.
that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with the amateur fighters, we try to focus on seeing seeing what they want to do, what's their future and how they feel. Um, Especially when they first started, because they first starting young, so
Hmm.
when you go in that gym, like I was saying, you find out real quick if you want to do it. So we ask them questions about, just a mental, how did they mentally get to where they was at, especially as young kids. For the pros, we ask everything from like eating, nutrition, making weight, especially training. It's so much that goes into training for a fight or in camp for a fight, physically and mentally, to where you have to like make sure like you physically and mentally prepare on fight night. If you not, it could be bad. It could be bad, everybody. Yeah, but that's what we focus on. We want to hear stories, and we also want to give them exposure and also know their journey and what they want to do. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that if you haven't had an opportunity, make sure you check it out on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. on the Resilient Radio stream, because I think there's so much more to the sport than just
Hmm.
the actual physical aspect, to your point, preparing, the diet. So to
Yep.
just hear from different boxers, and I agree, there's not a lot of discussion about boxing on different platforms. So I think that's pretty cool. We have a lot of NFL, NBA, but we really don't break down that sport. So
Right.
I have watched a couple episodes and I've enjoyed it. Sometimes
Thank
I'm
you.
like, okay, I don't know what's happening and what y'all talking about, but most of the time I kind of do, because
Yeah.
it really does get into like who you are as a human. So
Yep.
I definitely have enjoyed some episodes. All right, so before we go any further into the conversation, which I'm excited about, I did want to share a clip from one of my favorite movies, which is Creed. I wonder if it's like how people in the Navy be like NCIS isn't real. So it's okay if you tell me like, hey, as a connoisseur of boxing, this is not realistic. But I'm just saying, because like I was devastated. I was dating a guy in the Navy, and he was like, that NCIS isn't real, and I was just like, stop talking to me, like like I was so
uh,
upset. But like, I do want to show up one of my favorite clips from a movie, Creed, which has really inspired a lot of people. And really, shout out to Michael B. Jordan, because it
but
really
yeah.
was one of many platforms for his career takeoff. So we'll go ahead and we'll watch the clip and we'll break it down, and you just give me your honest opinion as a
Cool.
boxing expert.
Gotcha.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
having that person cross over into the movie. So for me, one of the biggest things that resonated, um, for one of the things that resonated with me was when he said, "Look in the mirror. Your biggest opponent is in the mirror." And
Yep.
that's something that resonated with me personally that I'm sure you can relate to in the boxing arena,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like it's you versus you, right? And
Yep.
so I think that was such a powerful moment, which is why I think that boxing should be broken down a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you're fighting against yourself. Like even when I do my boxing class, it's more of a mental thing. Like he's like, you can do it, because we have to do strength training, we have to do all this stuff, and you like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, I'm about to pass out.
Yep.
But it's really just you against yourself. And so even when he said, I'll leave the two of you alone, I thought that was very powerful, as well as just like, all the things that he was saying as far as training, him chasing the chicken,
Yep.
just really that endurance and that passion. But that's my opinion as a non professional boxing enthusiast. What's your
Mm-hmm.
opinion?
No, but that's actually good. There's a few things I want to point out in this video. For everybody who's listening, if um if you paid attention to the beginning of this video, you notice that Michael B. Jordan has not put on a pair of gloves yet. He has not got into a ring. He hasn't punched anything because of course, with boxing, with the workouts he was doing, road work for boxers is the main thing that they hate the most. But it's so important to do that road work where you jogging in the street. When he was chasing the chicken, he working on his speed, he working on his reflexes because he has to catch the chicken. So all that stuff that he was doing is kind of like when you preparing a meal and you putting everything inside the crock pot. That's all he was doing, working. You putting everything in the crock pot, and then, as you can see, the more the clips went, you saw him on the speed bag, and you saw he got. So that's what it is. All is that's what it really takes, and it's consistency that you have to do because, like I was saying, the physical. So you have to have your body prepared for that. Like I was saying in the beginning, he didn't put on no gloves. You got the cardio, you got to work out, you got to have that wind, you got to make sure your body can take it. You got to know how to throw a jab. And one thing he had him doing was shadow boxing. Shadow boxing is so important. It's so important. It's so
And I'm
important.
not good at that. I got to work on that.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people, I've seen a lot of videos where people do shadow box. Shadow box is all about you just go slow, and it's working on technique. So just working on
Mm-hmm.
your jab. So
And your form, maybe.
yeah, yep, your
Mm-hmm.
form, your technique, and it's about taking your time. I see a lot of people that when they shadow box, they no, just take your time. Yep. So all that stuff plays in a part with like fighters. So say like that was a perfect example. Michael B. Jordan was a guy who was just coming in the ring for the first time. That's what
Yeah.
they usually do. Yep. That's how it usually happens. Just the same way that video is, that's how it happens somebody walk in the ring. And eventually you find out if they want to come back. Like that first day they work you, they be like, all right, we see you tomorrow. If they don't see you, it's some people that don't come back. It's people that don't
Yes.
come back. Yep.
Yeah, it reminds me like for people that do cycling, the Peloton classes or like Soul
Mm-hmm.
Cycle. I always tell people don't quit, because
Yep.
most people quit after the first class, and
Mm-hmm.
the seat is not comfortable, but you also not sitting down for long. But I can imagine that would be very similar to boxing, where you like, I see you tomorrow, and then some people you don't see again.
Yep. And you know what you got to keep in mind too. When you in that gym, like with Michael B. Jordan, he didn't have to fight. He wanted to do it for his dad's legacy for Apollo Creed. But you
Yeah.
got some fighters in these gyms. That's that's all. That's is eat, sleep, and boxing. Some of them spend the night in the gym.
Wow.
So when you going in there and you saying you want to fight, you got to keep in mind these guys are in here. They serious about it. So if you gonna come in here and say you want to fight, you got to be serious because they serious. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's how you gotta. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that could apply to many things, right? You just got to be serious about your craft, because
Yep.
you're going to be up against people who have committed their life, their whole, all of their time is dedicated, eat, drink, sleep, boxing,
Yep.
because this is their passion, this is their love, and they're all in. So if you're competing against somebody all in, I can imagine that there's a level of resilience that the
Hmm.
person that's all in is going to have versus the person that's not you
Yeah.
know and I that reminds me, and it's not boxing, but it's a similar story. I was in grad school and I was just really stressed, and I was like, I want to do something that's like a stress reliever where I just can kind of have an outlet and a reset. And so they had
Hmm.
this tryout for like curvy models and do fashion shows.
Yeah.
And so I'm in this casting call and I'm like here with all these girls, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to model my whole life. And I was feeling bad because I was like, oh my gosh, I was just literally here as a stress reliever, something kind
Yeah.
of fun. And these girls are like, I've been wanting
Hmm.
to be a model my whole life. So obviously, I didn't think I would have gotten casted because I also wasn't runway trained. But they saw
Mm.
something in me, and then they said, hey, we're going to cast you, but you got to get runway trained. I had to do a
Hmm.
lot of like different training exercises. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of like, it's called stage posing. So I actually had to go into like a department store. I think it was like a Macy's, and they removed the mannequin, and I had the mannequin pose for like hours at a time. So I say that
Wow.
it was intense. Like I was like, I wouldn't say I was an American Next Top Model, but I mean, it wasn't like they was just gonna put me on a runway. I had to
Yeah.
do runway training, and that mannequin pose actually, I get a lot of compliments now about my picture taking. It goes back to when I had to stand in a Macy's window for hours and do those mannequin poses and change my poses like every minute or every 30 seconds. I can't
That's
remember.
crazy.
But it's like at the end of the day, the whole point of whatever you do is to be all in. And so,
Yep.
like, if you want to be a boxer and you are competing, you up against people who are sleeping in the gym. This is their
Yep.
love. This is their passion, and you want to be going up against people who love it just as much as you.
Yep. For sure. Yep.
I know that was a funny story I talked about modeling, but I do think it relates to boxing.
No, but no, you having to stand like a mannequin. That's that ain't no joke. That's a lot of mental that's
Listen,
a lot
I
of
was
mental
doing the pose
concentration.
before the song came out. Okay, it was serious. So that's why I think about that when people are like, "Oh, you take great pictures." I'm like, "Well, I was in the window of a Macy's, posing every 30 seconds, so I guess I got enough." But
Hmm.
let's another question I had is just kind of, we talked about this a little bit, but let's take a look behind the scenes. And I think you touched on this earlier. What does a real training regimen look like for someone who is preparing or has a desire to step into the ring?
Oh yeah. So I'm glad you showed that video. That's a bit of an example of what you get into day one. But remember, I was saying this is a everyday thing. So let's fast forward to camp. So camp is like, I know for certain fighters I've talked to, camp can be the most annoying thing because it's strict,
There's
it's
a boxing
discipline.
camp.
Yep. So for example, say like if a fighter has a fight coming up,
Hmm.
he's going to be in camp for about 6 weeks to prepare for that fight. So camp is straight training. You preparing for this guy that you fighting against. But it's even with that, it's like even with the food that you eat too. Like you can't eat certain food, especially if you're trying to make weight. And then it gets even more deeper, Tony. With this food that you're getting, you got to be careful what you're getting because with this food that they have now, some of them have chemicals in it, right? So you
Mm.
got to be careful as a fighter, especially in camp. You got to be careful on what food you're eating because if there's a certain chemical that they put in, it's like some chicken, and then you eat it, and then they giving you a test, and you pop dirty, and you like, I I just ate some chicken. You know what I'm saying? It
But
put
that goes to show you that
it
some of the
puts you
stuff
in a,
we
yeah.
putting in food has no business being in our food.
Yeah. So like for example, you got a lot of fighters that get popped for clenbuterol. That's found in like meat or tainted meat. That's meat, that they, put their drugs in it. If a fighter, eats some tainted meat and it's clenbuterol and it's on that banned list of substances, you in the whole world of trouble. They can call your fight off.
Oh
They
my
can
goodness, this is
they can take your,
intense.
yeah, all that stuff is
But
bad.
also,
And
I didn't know this was
yeah,
kind of the stuff that's in meat.
you'd be surprised what it is because they throw all types of stuff in this meat so they can keep it preserved and so it can stay in the grocery store longer. But with certain fighters, that's why they have to. Certain fighters have a nutritionist to where they don't have to focus on what I'm gonna eat. They got the nutritionists
So
that
you have to get like organic, clean protein,
clean stuff.
vegan.
Yeah. hmm I know for heavyweights, it's not as much. I know for people who like in lower weight classes who got to drop weight, you really gotta watch what you eat because, like I said, if you go in, say like you train and you go into the weigh-ins, you know the weigh-ins when they jump on the scale. If you get up on
Yeah,
that scale and you overweight, they can call the fight off. Yep. So it's a lot of mental that got to, especially with Cam, it's a lot of mental. So I know a lot of fighters when they in camp, they said they don't do social media. They don't really, they are completely away from the outside world. I'll give you an example. Terrence Crawford. I love what Terrence Crawford does. When he has a fight coming up, he goes to Colorado, and it's this gym in Colorado he goes to, and it's up in the mountains, and that's where he spends his camp at. It's solitude, no cell phone, no electronics, no nothing. He's just straight training, and that's what you need to be in tip top shape, ready for a fight. Because I mean, physically you look ready, you train, but mentally you got stuff going on. You gotta chase your kids around the house. You got people calling you, asking you for tickets, all that stuff. All that stuff can rattle you. So that's why you need people in your corner. Like, hey, you take care of the family. You get these. Hey, you do. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
certain fighters do that sometimes. They give people stuff like that because they need to be fully focused on the fight. So yeah.
yeah. So it sounds like the diets consist of clean protein,
Oh
organic,
yeah.
clean meat, veggies, and maybe some carbs or no carbs.
It really depends because if you heavy, like I said, if you heavyweight, you really ain't got to drop no weight. You just got to maintain it to where you feel comfortable. Also with training, when you training and you're going through this stuff weeks and weeks, you lose stuff. So certain fighters have to take different like pills and supplements, and even with that, you have to be careful to make sure it's not tainted. Because you can get popped for that. So yeah, it's yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah, that is a. I'm glad I asked that question because that's a good fact that I would not have known. So yeah, so this is great conversation. I'm really learning a lot myself because I think I could get on like a boxer's diet myself and maybe train without the physical hitting in the face, but I could get to train for my boxing class. So that clean meat one really stood out to me. So before we continue the conversation, we do want to take a commercial break. I'm really proud and honored to have Potty Products as a sponsor. I am also looking for more sponsors. So if you're interested in taking this transformative journey with me and becoming a sponsor with DGT, make sure you email us at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. And there's different ways to be sponsors. You don't have to do commercials. There's additional ways you can do a commercial. We can give you a shout out on one of our episodes or multiple episodes, and we'll send you a nice little marketing package. So make sure you contact us if you want to sponsor. And that's DGT313podcast@gmail.com. And now a commercial break from one of our sponsors from Potty Products. Welcome back to Detroit Girl Transform, where transformation is an inspiration and also the assignment. We're always looking for individuals who are on that journey and host and can join us as a guest. I'm here with Chuck from the Boxing Heads podcast, and we're breaking down what it really means to go from the ring to resilience. So again, if you want to join the journey with us and you want to be a sponsor, make sure you email us at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. And we would love to have you as a sponsor. We'd love to host your commercial or also advertise your business and give you a shout out on our commercial break. So Chuck, I'm really enjoying this conversation because I myself who has also, I wouldn't say I'm a boxing enthusiast. I would say I'm a lover of a
mm,
boxing class
Yep.
because I'm not necessarily getting one on one in the ring, but I think there's a lot of discipline and resilience and a lot of things that you can learn whether you're a boxer or not. So I'm very excited about continuing this conversation. So, with that being said, I know you get this question often, but I have to ask you, who is your greatest fighter of all? Who is the greatest fighter of all time in your eyes, and why?
Yeah, this is this is a it used to be a tough one, but now that I got more in boxing, I would say I'm gonna say this first. Boxing is an old sport.
Yep.
So there's so many great fighters that we don't know of. But for me, it gotta be Sugar Ray Robinson. He gotta be the GOAT to me. Sugar Ray Robinson. Like Sugar Ray Robinson is the blueprint. So you know how people say Muhammad Ali is the greatest. Muhammad Ali's idol was Sugar Ray Robinson. That's where he got everybody emulated him. Like from I tell you this, he was the first Money Mayweather
Oh,
back
so
in
he was
Jim.
the original Money Mayweather.
Yeah, back in the Jim Crow era, and he was
Oh
so
wow,
the reason why he was so great is like before he lost his first fight, he was like 88-0. And this is
that's
like,
insane.
yeah, he was 88-0 before he lost his first fight. He's the greatest welterweight of all time, but I think this right here puts him in a book. So he's a welterweight. So he fights at 147. So he fought at middleweight. So he went up to to middleweight to fight, but he went to light heavyweight to challenge the champ. So that's like a small guy fighting a bigger guy. He fought this champ in 103-degree weather, and they was fighting outside, and he was up on the cards, but they had to stop the fight because of heat exhaustion. But for him to go up 3 or 4 weight classes and beat up the champ on the cards, but had to stop the fight because of a heat stroke, like he was indeed.
Yeah, that mean he a monster.
Yeah, he's indeed the GOAT. He had his own club, he had his own grocery store. So he was he was he was who Muhammad Ali looked up to. And I'm gonna add Ali in there. Ali is my guy. I know everybody
Hmm.
mentioned him before, what he did outside the ring. But for the people who call him the greatest, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of Muhammad Ali inside the ring. For his size, he was so fast. Like, imagine somebody 200 and some pounds, but they moving like they 160 pounds, and that's
Wow.
what made him so great. His jab was so fast, the way he moved his feet, his footwork. Like, if Muhammad Ali fought in this era right now, he'll dominate everybody. So, and then it's so many fighters that I can think of, but without running the question, because we'll be talking all day. Sugar Ray Robinson is indeed the greatest of all time for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, 88-0 is that's tough.
Yeah, and I think he ended up winning about, I want to be wrong, 179 fights before he actually stopped. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? That is the go.
Yeah.
So,
Because
so
back then
speaking
they
of
used to
it,
fight 15 times a year back then. So
yeah, so that's over many years too.
yeah.
So he was fighting well past probably the normal age limit, and which is also powerful.
Yep. Yep,
So
for sure.
speaking of like people like fighting being an old sport, I see the newer version of fighting is a lot of social media attached to it, and I have two
Yeah.
questions on that. One, I'm gonna just throw out there is just kind of what are your thoughts on our native Michigander, Clarissa Shields from Flint, Michigan? She calls herself the GWOAT, and she has a strong social media presence,
Hmm.
but I'm wondering if it distracts from her craft.
Um, Absolutely not. And I'm gonna tell everybody who's watching, Clarissa Shields is the GOAT.
Okay.
She's a two-time Olympic gold medalist, and it's tough getting into them Olympics as an amateur. You got to go
Mhm.
through so many tournaments, but for her to do it twice, and then she is the first woman in history ever to be undisputed in 3 different divisions. So undisputed means there's 4 belts in each division, right? That means she went to one division, won all four of the belts. She went to another division, won all four of those belts, and then went to up to another division and took all four of those belts. So she's indeed the goal. I don't think it distracts her. I don't think it distracts her. I have to see how she fight in this upcoming fight she got, because ever since with the her boyfriend now Papoose, him being big and especially in hip hop, she got more lights on her now. So I will want to see if that has any effect. But like I
Yeah,
was saying, that
yeah.
mental aspect, yeah.
So maybe I'm hoping, and from what it seems like, it hasn't affected her craft of fighting. I think that what I'm probably seeing as a, just kind of an outsider is that I would like to hear more about her fight record than her personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by maybe not her being distracted in the ring, because from what I understand, she's very disciplined and focused in the ring, and I
Mm-hmm.
give her all the respect for that. I just
And
want to
Tony,
make sure that the talent is more of the talk than who she's dating, who he's
yeah.
married to, what she bought at the mall. Like her social media to me, I don't walk away thinking about her fighting as much because of
Mm-hmm.
the social media, but that's just more of a PR
Mm-hmm.
thing. But it's good to hear that from what you've seen, it hasn't distracted the craft itself,
Oh
and
no.
she deserves to have a life. I just think in a public way, that's just to me the
Yeah.
difference between the new fighters versus the old fighters.
Can I say one thing too?
Hmm.
She's as far as skill, she's light years ahead of
Oh
all the
wow,
women. Right, she's light years. It's to the point right now, Tony. Like she just like it's really nobody for her to fight left.
that's insane. So your
Yeah,
point is put some respect on her name. Forget about what you see in the personal life. She deserves. She is who she thinks she is.
put some respect on her name in the ring. Oh, she's good in the ring. She's good, man. She can dive shots, head movement, her jab. She got a good chin. She got power. She got everything. She got footwork. She got everything. She's like years ahead of all these women. She's like in skill. Like is no comparison. There's no comparison at all.
Well, that is good to hear, and especially from you as an enthusiast. And I appreciate you breaking down just kind of her record and what's undisputed, which is most which is most aspects of the
Mm-hmm.
boxing arena for women. So kudos to her, and I would definitely be continuing to cheer from the sideline, because anybody that's from Michigan, close to my hometown, that's operating in excellence deserves that support and
Oh yeah,
advocation. So I'm glad I
absolutely.
asked you that question, because I was curious to know what your perspective was, if it was too much talk away from the craft. But you're saying that she gets in the ring as if there was no social media present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people just have that mean streak,
Hmm.
some people, they can have a lot going on, but when it's
Hmm.
time for them to work in their industry,
They get focused.
every time, yeah, every time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And just on the lines of the social media and kind of the influencers, what are your thoughts about social media influencers stepping into the ring with professional boxers? For example, like the recent fight with Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul.
Yeah. So, uh,
Y'all probably don't even talk about that on the podcast.
you know what? I'm gonna say this. I actually watched Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, and I'm glad. I'm glad that Jake Paul is okay, but I'm glad that Anthony Joshua knocked him out, because I feel like my thing is this: I respect anybody who get in that ring, because once you get in that ring, there's a 50-50 chance that you may not make it. And that's just the dark root reality of boxing. But to take the sport serious, to respect the sport, like I respect Jake Paul more now for
Hmm.
fighting Anthony Joshua than I did before. I didn't like him fighting old fighters. Like, if you're gonna get in this ring and you're gonna fight, you need to be fighting the active fighters that's fighting right now. So my
Yeah,
thing with social media, like influencers, I'm glad that they are boxing, because it's giving boxing more attention and more light.
yeah,
But don't come in here playing.
yeah,
Like, don't come in here playing, jumping in the ring. It's like you ain't trained. You gassed out in the first round and you just getting a check. No, I have some respect for the sport of boxing. If you're gonna do it, do it. If you not, but I love the attention that it's getting because of those social media people. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's starting a conversation about boxing, but to your point, if you go get in that ring ready to do what needs to be done.
yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. That and I've been wanting to ask you that. So thank you for answering that question.
Oh yeah, no problem.
So someone like myself who may want to get into boxing, minus the anything in the face, but um, was there what advice would you give someone like me if I wanted to get into boxing for a physical and even a mind shift change?
Um, so I would say this: it is perfectly fine to just go to a boxing gym and you just want to do a boxing
Yeah,
class.
that's
It's
what I love to do.
it's great. It's a great work. It's great. It's a full body workout. It's a stress reliever, and believe it or not, you learn a lot and you gain discipline. You know what I mean? Because them coaches ain't gonna let you slide. But for somebody who want to take it seriously, I would say, for one, I mean, if there's any aspirations you have, I would say go for it. But just know when you're entering in something, there's going to be a transformation. You have to trust the transformation. You know,
Okay, and trust the
it's going to
process.
be, yeah, it's going to be painful. You're going to be like, oh, my stomach hurt. Oh, I didn't did these many push-ups, but it's a transformation. And if you just stick to it and let it just mold, you'll love the results. But for sure, if anybody want to box, I would say for sure, try it. But boxing will tell you if you want to keep going or not. Trust me, because even
The
even
ring
with
will teach you a
yeah,
lesson, huh?
for sure. Like even with me, Tony, like just my origin of how I started. You know, I used to just watch certain fights here and there. I was a big Floyd Mayweather fan. Then when he retired, I'm like, and then when Earl Spence Jr. started fighting, I started watching him. And then me and my host Greg, the boxing enthusiast, we started watching fights, talking about it. We ended up making a big old group on Facebook. And then we had frat brothers. I had my dad. He was like, yeah, y'all should just do a podcast. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I gotta I'm like, I can't just say, hey, I'm gonna do a podcast and say, hey, I ain't never been in the gym, I ain't never been in the ring. So I had a friend named Kovan who was getting back into training because he used to be a former fighter. So I used to go with him to train. And one day, I tried sparring. Look, let me tell y'all something too about boxing. Boxing hurts, y'all. Like I know them gloves look like pillows, but they feel like rocks depending on who hitting
Yeah,
you.
I can agree with you on that, especially what
So
depending on what weight you have for your gloves.
yeah, so I tried all that. I tried the workout, then I tried sparring, and then from there I was like, I need more. So I became a USA boxing official. So I used to judge amateur fights, and I used to do like I used to check their paperwork and all that stuff, and that's how I really found a love for it
Yeah.
because I was able to see what's going on with amateur fighters. I saw so many great fighters, Tony. And I was like, this is crazy. I'm like, it's so many great fighters in here that's kids. And you know what? Nobody doesn't know who they are. Wouldn't it be good to have a platform for them? So I was like, that was the motivation to get the podcast going. And it was just me just going through those different stages of transformation
Yeah, I
from
love
just
that.
watching boxing to going in the gym to actually being an official. It took that transformation and just talking to fighters and even training with fighters because I used to be just like you. I used to go to the classes too, but I had a personal trainer and he's a former old school fighter. His name is Lonnie Beasley, and he was my mentor. And he used to fight in the 80s, and I learned a lot from him. Dominique Dalton, LJ Harrison, Tony here. I learned from a lot of I pulled information from a lot of fighters throughout my journey to help me transform the podcast to what it is. So yep.
Yeah. And I think that's a great story because it's a part of that is you studying people in the craft, learning from them, getting, being absorbing, being a sponge. And I think that again, from a boxing standpoint, that's fantastic. But that could apply to anything in life. If you
Yes,
wanted, I
absolutely.
think about Fawn, who wanted to go into whiskey and study the story of Uncle Nearest and that whole story and how that evolved. I just think it's something powerful about people committing to what they're
Hmm.
interested in, their passion is, and really committed to being a student to learn. So I think that's really awesome. Well, this has been great. I only have one more question,
Okay.
and I'm excited about it because I think that there are some misconceptions out there. But what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about boxing or the life of a fighter?
Um,
What's something that somebody out of the ring would just get totally wrong?
someone totally wrong. You know what? Fight boxers are like the most coolest people ever.
Right. I guess there's an assumption that they're always angry, go ready to fight.
Yeah, you would, but they so like even the amateur kids,
Hmm.
they are some of the most well spoken. Their mannerism is like it's like night and day. Like it's like I can watch a fighter in the ring. He can knock somebody out. He'll come right to the ring. Hey man, how you doing? I'm good. Yeah. Like and he'll just sit and talk to you. You shake his hand. His hand feel like a cinder block, but he just the coolest person ever. Yes, and they real cool people. They real laid back. And I think one perception people miss about boxing, it's very technical.
Mm.
It's boxing is very technical. It's not a you go in the ring and it's not a rock'em sock'em. There's a certain way you got to wrap your hands before you put on them gloves. It's a certain
Yep,
way you got
I
to
do
punch
know that
people. Oh
because you
yeah.
got to wrap your hands for the start. I mean, it's not a good day if my hands not right where I get the support in that glove.
You still learning.
Oh my goodness, I be wanting to get that support because I know it's if that thing not tight enough, it ain't gonna be a good boxing class.
Yep. You gotta have my hands wrapped right. You gotta know how you throwing a punch because if you even if you punch in a heavy bag, you can punch it the wrong way. You can
Hmm.
you can break something on you. So it's very technical. That's why when people shadow box like that, some people think they just punch him. No, they're working on technique.
Yeah,
Properly throw that jab, and they're doing it at such a slow pace to where it's muscle memory
yeah,
to where yeah, it's very technical, and like it's very technical. It's a great workout. It's good mentally. Like I tell people, like I encourage anybody. Like if you don't want to go to a gym, you like I want people to watch me. Like and you got a basement, get you a heavy bag. And if you
hmm,
having a bad day, just throw on some gloves and just punch the heavy bag, and you'll be surprised how much of a stress reliever it is. I encourage anybody to just go to a boxing class, and, and
yeah,
and it's fine, and it's totally fine if you don't know what you're doing. They're gonna help you, and they real cool, So
yeah. I totally agree. Boxing is a stress reliever. Like when I can get to some of the classes during the week, it really does relieve some stress and tension and releases some endorphins
hmm
that are very positive.
oh yeah,
And so I do it in the morning to kind of get my day started. And then you also feel good about starting out on a Saturday morning. You might not be making the best choices in the afternoon with cocktails and such, but you like, I did my boxing this morning. So
yeah.
I got my mind positioned and right for the day and for the weekend. So well, Chuck, this has been super cool. I'm so glad you came on here. I have always been a fan of your podcast. And like I
Thank you,
said, if you guys want to check it out, it's every Wednesday at 8 o'clock on the Resilient Radio stream. And I also want to thank you for mentoring me in my podcast experience because my passion is transformation, and I have done some studying and some training on it. To your
yeah.
point, and so I think the transformative experience of boxing can apply to everyday life, everyday
hmm
goals, and anything that you want to do that you want to put your mind to and commit physically as well as commit to learning. I think is exceptional. So thank you, Fred.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, appreciate it. I want to leave with this too, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, with everybody who's watching, who listening, or who may watch later, listen. In order, in order to start your process of transformation, in order to start it and end it, you gotta have God in it. You gotta
Yes.
have God in it. If God is not in your
Absolutely.
transformation, you cannot transform without God. Nothing can happen without God. I just want everybody to know that. Yeah,
Amen.
for sure.
Totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree. All right. Well, Chuck, thank you for stepping into the DGT ring with us today and dropping some gems on the boxing and the fight life. This has been very informative. Conversation reminds me of fighting being not just about the physical strength, but also about having that heart and discipline and grit, and the
Hmm.
courage to do something different and get up and transform and make a change.
Yep.
So, to my listeners, remember every round you face is great for shaping your transformation. Keep fighting, keep rising, keep becoming who that version of yourself you want to be. This has been a great episode of Detroit Girl Transform. Check me out every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Resilient Radio stream. The time is now. The power is within us, and it's transformation time, baby. Every Tuesday at 9 o'clock. And I think next we're going to talk about, I am recruiting some more guests. So if anyone has watched the show Forever on Netflix, it is an amazing series. It was on last year. If you're interested, we're going to put a link in the chat where you can sign up to be one of our guests on the show. And we just talk about the transformative experience. So for those of you that have seen Forever, I don't want to give it away, but you can watch the series prior to our episode. But it talks about the transformative experience of how we see the modern Black family in the community. And what I found most powerful about Forever is just seeing they touched on a couple of things: the strength of a Black father, the strength of a Black mother, and the fear that a Black mother experiences with her son going out into the world where there's always a target on Black boys. They also talk about how to operate with your disability and what your superpower is. This particular individual had a disability. So, and weaved in all of that is his journey of falling in love, right? So, him managing the disability, managing the stress of a teenage boy, which, we've seen a lot of times that this generation is under a lot of stress. They could be impacted by depression, and so weaving that all into a love story, I think, was absolutely powerful. So if you want to join us in the conversation, we have a couple of people already lined up, but we're definitely looking for more guests. Make sure you check it out. And there's the Google link. The Google link is actually in the chat, but you can also find the Google link and this advertisement on the DGT website. All right. So it has been my pleasure. Again, we'll see you on Transformation Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Chuck, thanks for getting in the ring with us. We was ready for the smoke and ready for the fight. All
Thank
right,
you.
signing off.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. See you next Tuesday, 9 o'clock.